where things happen and a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are very important come from.
True.
Not that I am, but
Aha.
I mean, there are, yeah, I mean, to be quite frank and honest,
Yeah.
initially I actually wanted to be a medical doctor.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think it was from the upbringing where being a doctor was seen as the
yeah,
biggest
yeah,
achievement.
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. But it is great to have money, I must say.
It is. Yeah, it is great.
I would love me some money.
It is great. It is great.
Yeah.
Abshen Phalaborwa, and welcome back to our 5th episode of Phalaborwa Podcast Corner. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and engage with us in the comment section below. So today we have another special guest that we will be engaging with. He is an environmental scientist. He specializes in freshwater science. He's a writer, researcher, entrepreneur, and most importantly, someone who is born and bred in Phalaborwa. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Thabo Mohlala in the house. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Morning.
How are you doing today?
Now.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
No, I'm doing great, and how are you?
I'm also good. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the program, and it's exciting. One of the very few things I hardly ever do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we look forward to this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We also look forward to this. So, to those people who do not know much about you, can you please just give us a brief? Because I know I didn't do justice to your introduction.
I think you've more or less covered everything.
Yeah.
But well, maybe to just put it into perspective.
Okay.
My name is Thabo Mohlala, born and bred in Phalaborwa.
Yeah.
From the dusty streets of Mohlala, where things happen and a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are very important come from.
True.
Not that I am, but I mean, there are people who have come from these, dusty streets and have made it in life, and we appreciate that. So, yeah, I'm from Mohlala, born and bred there. My primary school was in Phalaborwa Primary School back in the days.
Okay.
And then from there, I did my high school, Phalaborwa. And then from there, I furthered my tertiary education and Univen in Venda. And then from there, Wits in Joburg.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome, Thabo. So please tell me, you say that you were born and bred in Phalaborwa. What are some exciting things that you can tell us more about Phalaborwa that you think might have played a role in shaping the person that you are today?
Yeah. Wow. Where do I start? There's just so many things. I think I would start off by saying the position, geographically of where Phalaborwa is, puts it at a very added advantage, even though a lot of people look at it as a negative because we're really further away from the national key point, areas and the markets.
Yeah.
But from a geographical and tourism point of view, and also industrial, we've got mines, we've got wildlife sanctuaries, we've got things like Kruger National Park, and we're very close to Mozambique. And that just sets the town apart, but it also increases the chances of opportunities.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because if you want to be an engineer or whatsoever, there is a market. We've got about 2 mines, and one which is, they're still deciding if it's a mine or it's a factory. But we'd like to just say we've got 3 mines.
Yeah.
And then, so that on its own presents a lot of vast opportunities for local people. Yes. And then you've got tourism, which is quite a big component of the economy, especially on a local scale. And then on the other side, you've got locals who are right on the border of Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and that on its own just presents opportunities of what are the neighboring countries doing, what is it that we can, So there's quite a lot of opportunities. So I think Phalaborwa has been underrated from that angle.
Okay.
But I think a lot of internationals are starting to see that, listen, in the Lowveld in general has vast opportunities if you look at it and pay attention to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, environmental scientist, I mean, looking at Phalaborwa, the goal, so to say, most people, is just working in the mine, getting a polo, and then that's it. You've achieved. But then we don't have much people who are in the field that you are in. So what motivated you? How did you get this interest to become an environmental scientist?
Yeah, I mean, to be quite frank and honest, initially I actually wanted to be a medical doctor.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think it was from the upbringing where being a doctor was seen as the biggest achievement. If you are deemed to be a doctor, you hold some sort of social stature and whatever. But anyway, And then as I grew older and we started getting exposed to PMC used to run programs back in the days where they would fund kids into going into Kruger and stuff like that. And I remember when I was going in there and we did quite a few activities. Then I met another guy. Well, he used to work for Kruger National Park. He's actually now retired. His name was Dr. Andrew Deacon. And he was giving a talk about all sorts of other things, So in my head, I had to deal with understanding why is he a doctor, but he's dealing with animals? Because I didn't have the training and understanding that, the doctor title had to do more with having a PhD, either having a PhD degree or being a medical doctor. Anyone with a PhD can become a doctor. And so I then realized, oh, okay, so I can be a doctor in other things. And then I completely moved away from medicine because I didn't really have the passion for it. I had the passion to being, called a doctor if there's such a thing. But my passion was more on the environment because I love the environment and what it can do and what it presented. And I thought, okay, well, here's an opportunity for me to still become a doctor, which I haven't become yet. Because as you grow, you start realizing certain things are not as important and glorious as it seems. However, the passion behind it is what is more important. Yeah. So I went into the environmental field, especially after that. And then, that's how I fell in love. But I must say, having to live in a town like Phalaborwa and the proximity of the park made a huge difference in influencing my decision. Yeah.
That is quite awesome. That is quite awesome. I think there are people who are listening, who are watching. Some in Phalaborwa or in places such as this who are getting inspired that, it's really possible to get out of your box and to be something that is out of the usual.
Absolutely.
So that's really great to hear. So talking more about the environmental field, I want to find out from you, what challenges do you think are there in the environmental sector that most people who maybe are still aspiring to come into this field might face and should be aware of?
Yeah. Listen, it's one of those fields which is predominantly, in quite honesty, in all fairness, it's predominantly dominated by white people because it's been a field that a lot of guys in small towns, black students were really never exposed to. But even if you were, you never found the courage to have people to look up to.
Okay.
Say, okay, I'm going to follow this career because I know so and so who's done it and they seem to be thriving or doing well or whatsoever. So I didn't have that role model.
Okay.
I think the only thing that pushed me forward was to say I want to try something different. It's outside the norm and it's outside, what I would have normally chosen. But because I've got a passion in environmental discipline as a whole, that kind of was what I looked up to, and that's what pushed me and helped form the passion. So there's a lot of challenges in a sense that there's still a lack of understanding in terms of if I do it, where will I work? Who will I work for? What will I be doing? And I always say to people, don't choose that field if you don't have the passion for it. Because unlike other fields where they pay a lot of money, this one doesn't.
Sure.
However, if you enjoy being out there and making a difference in your local communities and the environment around you, it's definitely the area to go into. So apart from that, there's economic challenges, obviously social factors as well. It's not a degree that you do because you want to gain some form of respect from anybody.
Okay.
It has to be within yourself and your inner self to say, I'm doing it because I love this. And this is something I really want to wake up and do every day. And that should be the biggest driving factor. And I think once you get that right, all the other things fall into place. Because it's no longer about money, even though we need money to survive, but you will make enough to get you going. And if you're as resourceful as other people, including me, you will start seeing value in how to generate income out of it.
Awesome.
So but we'll talk some more about that.
Of course.
Yeah.
I have a question with regards to what you were talking about regarding passion. would you advise or would you say people should follow passion or follow money in terms of choosing career?
Yeah. Well, there's two questions. You know,
Okay.
do you want to get rich and be unhappy, or do you want to do you want to be happy while getting rich?
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, so there's ways to look around it.
Hmm.
And I find that people who have more money but lack passion end up being confused and getting involved in everything that is supposed to generate money. But you end up not finding time for yourself and your family and just generally being happy. You know, because your focus is money, 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 money.
Yeah.
It's like a rat race, it never stops.
Mm.
So you need to find it in yourself to say, I'm going to push my passion 1st
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to generate income out of it.
Okay.
And while I generate income, I will still be able to attend to other things that actually make me happy.
True.
And that is enjoying what I do. And I think that is what life is all about. You need to be happy at what you're doing and make something out of it. And that way, you know, you find a balance.
Yeah.
If there's ever such a thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. But it is great to have money, I must say.
It is. Yeah, it is great.
I would love me some money.
It is great. It is great.
Yeah.
I think we should put the question that you stated in one of your articles.
Yeah.
Do you wanna get rich and be unhappy? Is that what you said? Or?
Yeah. Do you want to get rich and be unhappy in the process of being rich, or do you want to be happy while getting rich?
Yes, that's awesome. Speaking of articles, as a scientist and as a researcher, I believe there are articles that you have written.
Yeah.
Can you just maybe share with us some of the highlights of articles that you have written?
So some of the articles I've written and some I've co-written with some of my colleagues. One of them being, I used to work for the South African Environmental Observation Network.
Oh, yeah, SAION.
Fantastic research facility. It's funded by the National Research Foundation.
Awesome.
And they've got about a couple of nodes all over the country. But the very first one they had was the one that started in Phalaborwa.
Okay.
And that was placed in Kruger National Park.
Dendrover node.
And yeah, Dendrover node.
Nice.
And that was placed primarily because of the geographical setting and the biome found in the province, but also given the position of where Phalaborwa is, with all the industrialization around it, and on the other side you've got wildlife sanctuary. It just presents an opportunity for any researcher, to delve into a whole lot of other research areas. So I started actually volunteering there while I was still in varsity.
Okay.
Yeah. So I approached them and I said, listen, guys, I've done some research on what you guys are doing, and it's in line with my future career plans. And if you don't mind, I'd like to come and work for free.
Okay.
Because I figured I needed some form of experience. And this was upcoming, and they had just started, and it was a fantastic opportunity. So I approached the manager at the time, who still is the manager, Dr. Tony Swimmer, and I wrote him an email, and he said, listen, when you're back in Phalaborwa, give me a shout. Let's meet up. Let's talk and see how we can help you. And then I did just that, and then when I came back, we spoke and we sat down, and he said, listen, we've got these opportunities in terms of you gathering work experience. We can't pay you. And I said, fantastic. That's fine. I don't mind doing it. I went out with them a few times, and he was quite impressed with my work ethic as well. And then great, we worked quite lucky, and then it was time to go back to varsity. I went back, and on my last year, around December, I got an email to say there has been an opportunity that came up, and would I be interested in applying for it? And I said, yeah, of course. And then I applied for it, and I think on the 5th year, while I was waiting to graduate for my honors, I got called out to an interview. It was my first interview ever. Had never been into any informal interview. And then that happened. I went into it because I had already done so much research about what they do. And I had already seen a platform and opportunities that I could get into. I mean, it was like a hand in a glove, because it was like that position was made for me. And then we went into it, and I got the job offer.
Nice.
And that's where my entire career started. And yeah, SAION just presented so many opportunities for me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then from there, coming back to the articles, we did a whole lot of work in different areas. My my area was more freshwater science, and I started getting involved in things like the Olifants catchment and the type of research work, because there wasn't any long-term projects that were designed to actually track and look at water quality and quantity stuff, and then how that affects local communities in the Olifants River as a catchment itself. And then some of that data came out quite strongly, and we ended up publishing a few papers out of it, actually quite nice papers in international journals. And yeah, so that, I think that just gives a lot of volume and wealth into anyone's career once you start publishing the work you do.
Yeah.
Because it opens up a whole lot of other opportunities.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So are these articles accessible? And
yeah, they're accessible.
One was to access it where?
2 of them are in the aquatic Journal of Aquatic Science.
Okay.
Yeah, if you Google them, you will find them. If you just tap my name or just look at Olifants River or whatever, you should find them. One is in an international fish biology journal as well. And yeah, there's a few other ones, and we've done a couple of other normal articles. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Just look it up.
Yeah, definitely we will.
Yeah.
So Thabo, you are a pastor's child.
Oh boy.
Of course, that was coming.
Oh boy.
and we know, there are a lot of funny things surrounding pastors as kids.
Well, some of them are true.
Yeah. Yeah. So how has that been, that part of your life?
Tell you what, I will switch it around and say, the biggest battle that I've ever had when I started going into science is once you start reading a lot into science and understanding what science is and what makes it, and understanding that everything is evidence-based, it shifts a lot of your thinking along the science of the religion that you were brought up in.
True.
You start wondering if really, there is a God, because there isn't any evidence. So part of the biggest battle for me was balancing the two and understanding that I am a scientist by career, and I'm a Christian by religion.
Okay.
And I need to find the balance between the two and understanding that the two can never work together. Or most importantly, there's a lot of disagreements that come with trying to make the two actually become one thing, and it's impossible. So I haven't really found that balance yet, but with given where I come from and how I was taught, you find a balance, and then you say, this is how far my science career comes to, and this is how far my Christianity goes.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yes, I am a pastor's kid, but I'm not a pastor.
Okay.
I haven't had the calling yet, and I think it's very important to stress that out.
Okay.
Being a pastor is not so much about a title.
Okay.
There has to be a calling that goes with it.
Right.
And as much as being an environmental scientist, to some people it's just a title, but for me, it's the passion that drives it. Because that's what
I thought you were going to say it's a calling.
No.
Scientist.
Yeah, well, it's a calling to save the world and the planet.
Okay.
So you could look at it from that angle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Do you think that's true?
It's true and it's not true, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Everything is individual based. Obviously, in any community, you will get a pastor who might give birth to a pastor or might give birth to anything else.
I'm interested in the anything else part.
Yeah. But a lot of it is driven by how the kids are brought up. Okay. So, for instance, the traditional way of pastors' kids being brought up is a lot of their childhood has been church. And after they done with the matric and they start going to varsity, it's like, I didn't realize there was a life outside church.
Yeah.
And that's where you can easily lose them.
Exactly.
Because they feel like, oh, now I've got freedom to do everything I've always wanted to do, or everything I've seen my friends doing.
Yeah.
And it's very few of them that actually come back from that and say, okay, I've seen it all, but I'm going to come back to what I was brought up, the way I was brought up in. And some you will lose them forever. And that is where the whole notion of, Murutai comes from that. But I think what is important in this generation, we're seeing a lot of difference because a lot of pastors these days don't bring up their kids the way we were brought up because they understand the trauma that comes with it.
Yeah.
You know, they give the kids some leeway to actually make a decision of what they want to do with their lives. And that helps them to not feel like I'm being pressurized into this, but I've got a choice to become who I want to be and still be a Christian. You know? So, yeah.
Interesting.
Depending on which generation you're dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
That will apply as a yes or no.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, Thabo, accent we come queen in which part of your life? Hey,
I don't know.
I'm trying to cope, with my little machine English. Hey.
I don't know.
It's quite a nice accent.
Thank you. It's one of those things, and I can't tell you where I picked it up. I'll be lying if I said I remember. But I think exposure is a very big contributor.
Okay.
Yeah. I think when I started going to this field, I started getting involved in a whole lot of things and being exposed to a lot of international people and working with them. And over time, you start, whoever is around you influences what you become.
True.
Not always, but for me it was because you start reading a lot and you start listening to people speak and you understand that articulation is important. Not necessarily the language, but how you articulate yourself. So you study the language to be able to better articulate yourself. And that just improves your way of explaining things and people, being able to understand you.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was more about studying the language for better articulation so that the very same passion and message I carry can then be unpacked to other generations. We can then take it further.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I don't know where I picked it up, but somewhere along the lines.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Power of exposure.
Maybe your kids would have it as well. But
you never
probably
know.
Because of the environment.
Exactly. Yeah. So the environment is quite a big thing.
Interesting. Thabo, I want us to play a game. I believe you're well traveled. I'm sure you've been to all provinces in South Africa.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is the perfect game for you. So, I have a list of attraction sites in South Africa.
Oh, okay. Attraction sites.
Attraction sites.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you two, and then whenever I give you two, I want you to give me one which you think it's best. We're not trying to compare sides and everything, but it's just a game.
Okay.
Right.
So best in terms of
if you
tourism.
Tourism. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Tourism. Okay.
It's very important to be clear.
Yeah. Of course.
If you ask me about Mexico, there's only one answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the game.
Nice. All right. We have the Kruger National Park and Table Mountain.
That's a very tough one because they both present very different opportunities.
Okay.
And I love them both
Yeah.
for their individual reasons. For instance, Table Mountain has, it's part of the Cape Floristic region, which we do not have in the Lowveld.
True.
So I can't really compare the two. But if we're talking in terms of nicer areas to go to, I would say Cape Town.
Nice.
Yeah, because you've got a whole lot of things there to do.
Thabo is a bad bar.
Sorry, Kruger. Kruger is very close to my heart.
All right. Kruger National Park and Blade River Canyon. Or we can just say the Panorama as a whole.
The Panorama, yeah. I'd say Kruger.
Kruger.
Yeah, because I've got a very deep passion, rooted passion in birds.
Okay.
Avifauna. So, and I feel Kruger presents me with a whole lot more. And it exposes me to a variety of habitats.
Yeah.
Whereas the Panorama, it's fantastic, but from a birder's point of view, I feel like I'm limited because a lot of areas are in protected areas which I can't necessarily access.
Yeah.
So that's where Kruger actually sets the scene.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to leave out Kruger now because we'll have Kruger
for
the entire game.
Yeah.
All right. So the Garden Road or Soweto?
Garden Route. For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The Drakensberg Mountain or the Cradle of Humankind?
Drakensberg.
Yeah.
I love the cradle of humankind, but I feel that there's still a lot that can be unpacked from the Drakensberg because it touches on the one side, you've got Lesotho, on the one side you've got South Africa, and you've got the Cathedral Peak, so that just presents you with so much, and that area is still understudied.
Okay,
there's still a lot we don't know about it.
Yeah,
but the cradle of humankind, it's fantastic. But if you're not an archaeologist, or someone who has a very keen interest in that, I feel like outside that there isn't quite a lot. To actually unpack. So, but it's a fantastic area. I mean, it also presents its own individual and unique attractions. But for me, Drakensberg, because it spans from a very long stretch, so there's a lot to do and a lot to see.
Awesome. And if you've been to all these places.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you for playing the game.
Awesome.
All right. You are an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Please tell us about the business that you're currently involved in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm currently involved in a company known as M&M Environmental Consulting. Not M&M, except it's almost spelled the same.
Yeah.
There's two alphabets that are different. I co-own it with a very good friend of mine.
Nice.
His name is Nico.
Okay.
And when we started the company, it was quite a weird setup. We didn't decide we're starting it. We both loved traveling and doing exciting things.
Yeah.
And the one day as we were traveling, and I remember we were going to Mapungube, and then he said to me, I think with what we do and how much we love it, there's actually income that can be generated from it.
Right.
And at that point, I didn't take it quite serious because I always thought about going into consulting, but it wasn't a drive for me. I was happy where I was, because for me, Kruger's always been that one place I always pictured myself working at, or doing work or being associated with it. So then from there we started, talking about it all the time until it actually started sticking into my brain. And we formed the company, and at some point decided that was it, resigned, and we went into it. And it's been a roller coaster, but it has also been both rewarding, challenging, and exciting. But most importantly, I'm more happier now because I get to decide, we both get to decide what we want to do with our lives and how we want to do it. And the possibilities are endless. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we offer quite a variety of expertise, ranging from environmental specialist studies to borehole and water drilling. And mineral exploration, with borehole drilling being one of our major and key projects that we do and services we provide on a day-to-day basis. So, apart from that, we get involved in things like production films. We've recently got involved in a couple of movies that were done up in the canyon. And then from there, we get involved in a lot of German and Russian production series that like the Get Me Out of Here Celebrity Australia and a couple of Russian dossiers that they do in the canyon. It's quite exciting. So dossier, it's more or less related to a documentary, except the way they do it, it's split into different parts, and it's made into different, obviously for different viewers.
Nice.
Yeah, so they make the production suited for different areas.
Nice.
So in a nutshell, that's what we do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what are some interesting things that working with your partner, you guys have come across? And if you were to encourage someone who's still maybe trying to go into business, partnerships and things like that, that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think one of the key things is we were friends before becoming business partners. And that already just set the tone.
Yes.
Because when we're friends, we don't need to pretend to each other.
Exactly.
You know me for who I am, and I know you for who you are. So if you're not reliable as a friend, you will obviously not be reliable as a business partner. So I think the whole fact that we can rely on each other and we know each other up to that level, it just makes running a business even better and smoother. Because we understand each other's strong points and weak points. If something comes across, before he even engages me into it, he already knows what I might possibly say or how I'm going to deal with it or how I'm going to respond to it. And I know about that, about him as well. So the fact that we were friends before the business just makes the relationship even more different and unique. And I think that's one of the things people should take away from. Not to say you need to be 20-year friends, before becoming business partners. But I think if you're friends first, you already know a lot about each other. So when you go into it, you know who's going to fit into what.
True.
And there's no clutch, in terms of who's going to do what and who's going to focus on that. And the whole thing just works out much better and smooth.
Oh, that's awesome. I think as entrepreneurs, there are probably challenges that you come across, especially I think there are points where you want to give up and say, why did I quit that job? Where are we going? And things like that.
Yeah.
Can you share with
I've
us?
I've had a lot of those.
Yes, if you had those moments, and how did you come back from those?
Yeah. I think a lot of it was when the company was not making money. And you start looking at your CV and rearranging it and brushing it and just dropping some people WhatsApp messages to say, hey, I'm still alive. But you don't have the guts to tell them, listen, I don't think what I'm doing is coming right. I think I'm failing. Dismally so. But you become... you don't say much, but you keep looking at opportunities, and you will have a lot of that. And anybody who's an entrepreneur can tell you, it's not easy. But as soon as you start finding your feet and you understand what your purpose is, things like that don't bug you anymore. It starts teaching you a lot about how to save, where to save, and how to make the most out of the little you have. So challenges like that are everywhere. But the most important thing is to always remember why you're into this.
Would you say you are happy where you are now?
I'm much more happier than I could have ever been. And I don't really think there's any job that would pay me enough to move me away from where I am. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. I'm happier. I get to wake up and decide what I want to do.
Okay.
Right. I can be able to plan my life, and we plan our lives for the business and say, this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to do. He knows I love fishing. So I always said to him, if we can set up the business in a way that everything can run and I can go fishing without being worried about generating income, I'm the happiest. It's things like that. So challenges are there. And the biggest thing is, how do you come out of it? And how do you come back to your original plan, which was to be passionate about what you're doing and making the most out of it.
That's awesome. So I think a lot of people who are in business or who are still starting can relate with the challenge of money. How do you deal with that one, especially if you're still a new company? Yes, of course, you want to work, but also there's money needed.
True.
How can you deal with that?
It's different strokes for different people. For us, it was easier because we were still young and we both not married and we didn't have kids then. So that on its own made the risk factor a little bit less compared to a whole lot of people who have families to feed, children to feed, and all of that. So the risk factor it's individual based. And the decisions that drive you to say, I want to stop this and go into this, there's a lot. You can't be selfish in how you do it. So it's different from one person to the next. For us, we sat down and we said, listen, we're young. If we made mistakes, we can recover from that. There's still a chance. None of us are even 40. There's still a chance to, come back from those mistakes, rectify them. And, the more mistakes you make, the better you become at, doing things.
True.
So the risk factor for us was very, very low. But the challenge is obviously when coming to money. It doesn't matter what your risk factor is. Money is money, and it's going to present itself. So it's important to look at those things and have that understanding before you even go into business. That these are the chances and possibilities of these obstacles coming into my pathway of becoming the best of me. And you just have to find ways to deal with it. There isn't a designed formula that you can say, okay, if I do this and do that, I'll come out of it. Because the risk factor is different. And the challenges are also different, and the markets themselves. In most cases, I think what worked out for us is while I was still working and while he was still working, we made business relationships, with different people in different areas. So when we went into business, we already knew who to approach and who to talk to. And the same people knew about us and our capabilities. So the transition was not so much very difficult because before we went into the business, the foundation was laid. So it's all those dynamics that one has to think about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting from you is that it's very important to start as soon as possible, especially when you don't have a lot of engagement or responsibilities yet, and also to network with people.
Well, I'll put it this way.
Okay.
You can start as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But also, it's important to have the experience.
Oh, okay.
So how you do it and when you do it, it's not so much the issue.
Okay.
The issue is what do you have at hand when you decide to do it?
Okay. Okay.
That will set forth what you're going to get into and better prepare you in terms of how to deal with certain things. So I would stress this very much. Have a mentor, have someone to look up to, and understand that whatever you're getting yourself into will present itself with challenges. Try and find people in the same sphere who will be able to guide you and you can talk to them and they will be able to understand you. Because unfortunately, once you start becoming an entrepreneur, you can't relate with everybody easily. There's a lot of people who will not understand you because your dreams are way bigger than comprehension of other people.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But find people who are in that space who will be able to guide you so that you don't make a fool out of yourself. Or most importantly, you don't regret your decisions.
True.
Which you will probably do, but that's okay. Yeah. It's part of the process.
Awesome. Nice. Phalaborwa, once upon a time, we were doing well in the side of tourism.
Yeah.
What do you think went wrong?
We missed the bus. Phalaborwa used to have a big focus on component on tourism and improving that. And you had places like Hans Mariski.
Yes.
Some of the most biggest professional golf players have played on that field. But over time, there was this drive that started focusing on mining and mining and mining, which shifted everybody's focus onto mining and neglected the environment where the mining was taking place.
True. Sure.
And for that reason, that there was a big shift from everybody thinking, yes, the air quality is now getting bad. Whether it was true or not, because of the drive there, it started losing that that value and that market. And a lot of it started shifting onto the panorama because now people started worrying about air quality. In the panorama, they don't need to worry about that.
Of course.
People didn't like seeing, especially if you're a greenie, and I say greenie, but these are more people who are very, very sensitive, and I mean very sensitive about the environment. Then they start moving away from that because they don't, development is important and so is mining. But to some people, it's deemed as a distraction. So they don't want to see that around the spaces where they live. So a lot of people started moving into places like Hoedspruit.
Yeah.
And that is why Hoedspruit has now become the hub of tourism.
It's doing very well now.
It's doing fantastically well. And that is also okay. You can't have both.
True.
At some point we're gonna need to find a balance between the systemic issues.
Yeah.
And I think from that angle, now mining has settled down in Phalaborwa. It's no longer a big thing, but tourism, has now been neglected so long that it's going to take a lot of years and a lot of money and investment to try and revive it.
I mean, we've lost our airport.
Yeah,
we've lost a lot of things.
So, yeah. And
so do you think it's a bus that is gone forever, or
with the right leadership, it can swing back this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So leadership also plays a role.
Yeah. So the leadership needs to have a very clear understanding of the ecotourism component, development, and the economy as well, so that they're able to understand which role they need to play where.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're dealing with different sectors that needs a different approach. You can't use a one blanket approach to try and revive each sector.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to deal with one individually and in a way that will sustain, the area. So we need leadership that has that conscious understanding of what sector they're dealing with and what skills need to be brought into place in order to get the economy back where it was.
I hope we do get it right in the future. Because really, it's really sad, especially if you've lived in Phalaborwa in the days where it was doing very well, and to look at it now or see it now.
Yeah.
It
At
really
some point, we were the cleanest town in South Africa.
Yeah, true.
So it shows you it's not it's a leadership thing. With the right leadership, we can achieve whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, awesome. Talking about mining, there's I don't know whether to call it a myth or what. But I think you're the right person to help us with this thing.
Well,
apparently there's this myth, whenever it's supposed to rain in Phalaborwa, there's an aeroplane that flies in the sky, and then apparently they shoot chemicals there, the people in the mine, and then so that it doesn't rain. Is this a myth, Vela, or it's something that is real?
It's a myth. Okay. I'll tell you why. With the current technology that is being used in the mines, whether it rains or it doesn't rain, operation goes forward.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I think, back in the days, there was a lot of culture embedded in how people explain and interpret natural phenomena.
Yes.
So people will say, we used to have rain in Phalaborwa back in the days and whatnot. And some people will try and tell you why we don't have it anymore. But a lot of it is actually scientific based. Global climate change is a reality.
Okay.
And we're starting to see it quite a lot.
Yeah.
You start seeing a lot of variation and patterns in Phalaborwa in terms of temperature, in terms of our rainfall patterns, in terms of how the weather, changes, it can change 3-4 times a day, which is something different to what we used to in Phalaborwa. And that's just the impacts of global climate change, exacerbated by, obviously, anthropogenic factors. So anthropogenic meaning human-induced factors.
I was going to ask. Thank you.
Like development, mines, us, pollution just from normal households. It's a whole lot of factors. Not to say it's only one thing that actually makes everything worse. It's not mining alone. It's mining with a whole lot of other things.
Okay.
Dysfunctional wastewater treatment works, mining industries, pollution from communities, lack of proper services. So it's a whole combination of things that leads us, to where we are. So it's not it's a coordinated it's a coordinates, what's the word for it? It's a combined effort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not just a mining alone affects the rainfall in Phalaborwa. No, it's a whole lot of things, but over time, then we start seeing the impacts. So people need to have the understanding that it's global climate change, but exacerbated by human-induced factors, which we do on a day-to-day basis. Even if you were to take mining away, it would still be hot in Phalaborwa. Okay. So even if you were to take whatever you think is the driving factor, the conditions will not change. However, the mines are actually doing quite a lot into helping communities and also, taking care of the environment as well. I mean, I've read a lot of the sustainability reports and stuff, and they're doing quite a lot of work, and which is critical. You can't have development without some level of impact.
Yeah.
And it's not from mining alone. It's a whole lot of factors, and that's just how it is. So it's a myth that there is some airplane that shoots
Thank you. I believe a lot of people who are like me who are watching now know that it's a myth. Interesting.
That's a combination.
Interesting. So still talking about leadership, now taking it to the nation in general. We are approaching the voting. Actually, we're in the voting season.
Yeah.
Would you advise the young people to vote? And what are the things that they should consider as they go and vote?
Yeah. I would say all young people and actually everybody should vote, but we should all vote with a conscience. And that means we need to understand what change do we want to see. And in order for us to understand the change we want to see, we need to identify who's better suited to deploy the change we want to see. So our voting is very important in determining who's going to be the leader and how well will they lead us. Unfortunately, we need to make sure the leaders who are going to lead us into this change we want to see are well informed. They understand the economy of the country, not from a poor and rich perspective, but from a perspective of how can we all live in harmony and understand that there are different role players into the economy, and we need to increase chances of everybody having an opportunity in contributing and participating in this economy. So it's important to have that thorough understanding and not just focus on things and the damages that were done in the past. We need to say, yes, we are now fully aware of what the impacts of the past are, but how do we then go forward from here? What needs to be done at a very local level before we even go national? At a local level, what are the driving factors? Where are the key areas that we need to focus on? And how do we tap into those resource and areas, and what resources do we need? If there's a skill set or pool of skills we need at a local level, let's deploy them. You know? And color shouldn't be a determining factor. Color of the skin shouldn't be, but everything should be treated from a point of merit. If I know you to be good at a certain, area, I should be able to choose you, not because of how you look, but because of what you can give back. You know? And I think that's the type of mind we need to go into this elections with. It's no longer about color. It's no longer about who's who and who's done what. It's about reform and transformation, and where are we going with this, and who are the people we need to get to the change that we want to see.
Awesome. I'm not trying to lead you to talk politics, but I want to ask, do you think, because if there's something I believe South Africa has lost is hope. So looking at the parties that we have now, even the ones that are emerging, do you think there is hope?
I don't think necessarily the parties are the issue. The issue is the people that are leading the parties.
Okay.
So it's a case of principles and standards. We shouldn't change the principles, but we should change the standards. And that means we can have a turnover of and change leadership, and it will still carry on the principles of for instance, ANC. You understand? So it's a case of understanding that the current leadership that is there has done whatever they can to some extent. However, if there's still dissatisfaction, which I believe there is, then we need to look at people who will better carry forward the principles of each individual party. But the biggest thing is we all want a country that is free of crime, that has better opportunities for everybody, no matter what their skin color is. And our children shouldn't grow up thinking, if this is the color of my skin, does it mean my opportunities are limited? Do you understand what I mean? So we need to get people into the leadership who have that understanding that this is no longer about colonization and oppression and apartheid and whatever. It's all about a future we all want to see, and how best do we make that future happen with the skill set we have and the pool of people that we have.
Interesting. Really, the issue of leadership is concerning in our country, but hopefully if we make the right choices, things might tend to be better. Awesome. Just gonna take you back to business a little, because I believe you have dealt with different kind of people, different races.
Absolutely.
You've done a lot of studies. Is there a certain group of people or race, so to say, that you think if people were to copy, for a lack of better word, and I know it's there, if people were to copy in how they deal with business, they would really do well, especially people who are still starting business.
Coming back to that, I've dealt with a lot of races and a lot of different people. I've dealt with a lot of white people, Indian people, colored people, black people.
Of course.
And I have found a lot of good people in terms of ethics and how they do business and how good they are and how professional they are in all the different races. And even within all the races, you still find bad apples, people who are just raw and terrible to work with, So it's an individual thing. It's not a race thing. It's an individual thing. And it's important to tease out those things as and when you come across them.
Yes.
It mustn't be generalized.
Okay.
Because you get a lot of people, who are really good at what they do. And they are of a particular race which is different to the one I am. And I've come across a lot of people who are my skin color, and they're fantastic to work with. They're professional. They deliver. The merits are endless. And then you get bad apples that are my skin color, and you sit there and you wonder, what the heck is happening here? So it's not and I always say this to people. It's not a race thing. It's an individual thing, and one shouldn't generalize it and say, Black people don't know how to do business. The question is, which Black people have you come across?
Exactly.
Perhaps the problem is you, because you don't travel. You're localized.
Exactly. True.
So as soon as you stretch yourself out and you meet different people from different areas, you start realizing your perception is localized.
Sure.
So as they say, your thinking is limited to where you've been in most cases. So I'll just sum it up there.
Interesting. I think you and I can go on for another hour.
I think so. I think the next time we need there's a bit of coffee there.
True.
We need a big kettle.
And he's also a good coffee maker. He's a good barista. So
hopefully the next session we'll have a machine and we can test it out.
Exactly. So I'm going to give you time. I'd like you to speak to the camera and just last words that you would love to leave out to the people, whether it's encouragement, tips, advices, whether it has to do with what you've done, traveling, anything that you want to say to the people now, it's your time.
Yeah. So, I would start off by saying that the generation we're in now, it's a different generation. It's a generation of endless possibilities. We see a generation of, pioneering spirits, people who want to initiate things. They stand up for what they believe in. We're a generation that believes we do not have to dwell into the past to determine what our future is going to be. And that's what I really, really admire about this generation. We're a generation of entrepreneurs who see opportunities in our local economy and markets, and we go for it. Regardless of whether it's believed to be within a certain group of people, we go for it. So young people, go out there, travel as much as you can, make them the best out of it. And most importantly, don't forget who you are and where you come from. Compared to a lot of people, and this is generally about South Africans, we go out and we come back to implement what we've learned in our communities. And which is why we're doing business, but we're not in Gauteng. We're here, where we were born, and we're providing the services here. And that is very critical in enhancing this economy and the future that we all envision, to have. We need to come back, to our roots and contribute to that. And I'll just sum it up there.
Thabo, it has been very exciting, interesting to engage with you.
Thank you so
much. And I
much.
hope we will sit again very soon.
No, we will. It's been exciting.
Thank
you.
And
I hope my 2 cents worth of contribution has made an impact in someone's life.
It has. Trust me, it has. It has really been great. We know you are a very busy man. So to have you, it's really an honor. Thank you so much. Awesome. South Africa, thank you for tuning in to our 5th episode. Please make sure, if you haven't subscribed, to subscribe, engage with us in our comments, and like this video. Until we meet next time, thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.